Afternoon. I was talking to someone, excuse me, I was talking to someone online the other day. She knows who she is. Who asked me about self-rehabilitation. And to be honest, I've never heard the phrase before, but it makes perfect sense. Self-rehabilitation, and how did you self-rehabilitate yourself following the accident, the diagnosis of being brain injured, etc., etc.? And that's a very good question. To be honest, I don't know how to answer, but I'll give it a damn good shot. How did I self-rehabilitate? Well, in the very early stages of my recovery, I made no attempt to self-rehabilitate because, to be frank, I had no idea there was anything wrong with me. Brain injury was not sort of part of the equation. I just knew I was desperately ill. Obviously, being in the coma, I was well out of it. And for the first few weeks and probably months after the coma, I was well out of it. I was awake, I was conscious, I was in the land of the living and talking to people. But I didn't really know I was brain injured. I didn't really know I had any conditions that went alongside that. So consequently, self-rehabilitation never really came into the equation because there was nothing to self-rehabilitate. But later, when awareness finally started to get into my noggin and I realised that there was something wrong and I wasn't just making endless trips to the hospital for the fun of it, that's when you start to realise and start to think, what next? Indeed, is there a next? And you have to directly or indirectly, deliberately or undeliberately, put strategies into place. Living and learning to live with the new you. How do you do that? Endless headaches for a start. How do you live with the endless headaches? Well, you medicate them. Simple as that. You learn to avoid situations that can bring on the headache. I know this is speaking to the layperson like you teaching your grandma how to suck eggs. It's obvious. Just avoid the situations. But when the headaches do strike, medicate them. Don't be afraid of medication. That's the one thing I've learned. I have a close family relative who won't take medication unless they're dying. Why? I'd rather be pain-free and medicated. It's as simple as that. I have epilepsy now. That was another strategy I have to learn with. If I didn't take my medication with epilepsy, I'd have no quality of life because I'd never leave the house. There's another strategy. When I first developed epilepsy, I used to have generalised seizures, the proper writhing on the floor, foaming at the mouth jobs. And I had no quality of life because I never left the house. I had no confidence. I was terrified on a permanent basis, utterly terrified that seizure should strike. And when the medication was finally found that put me back on an even keel, so to speak, I had to overcome the terror. I wouldn't let the terror beat me. I had to go out. I had to see people. I had to find those strategies. Because it doesn't bear thinking about. Not seeing people, being terrified your entire life. So it sounds so easy and so obvious, but you have to not be terrified. Well, hey ho, wouldn't that be lovely? And I'm not going to pretend, I'm not going to lie, it takes an age. But the confidence does come back slowly. It's 23 years for me now, and I'm still nervous when I go anywhere. I still look for exits. I still look for the quickest way out of any building I'm in, just in case a seizure should strike, just in case anxiety strikes, just in case I feel the urge to escape, which does happen. You see, because when you're not brain injured, when you're quote unquote normal, for want of a better phrase, hopefully most of your life is good days with the occasional bad day thrown in. But for a lot of people with a brain injury, it's the exact reverse. It's the same, it's the negative. Every day is a bad day, but with the occasional good day thrown in. And it's how you cope with that. And how do you cope with every day being blah, 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 being aphasic, not being able to find the words. Now, how do you cope with every day being a bad day? Again, I don't know. It becomes part of life, to be honest. It becomes normal to not feel well, to want to find exits, to be a new you that you're not familiar with. I'm still not familiar with the new me now. But the strategies help. The constant reminders to do things help. The medication helps. Other people, in general, don't help at all. Because a lot of the problems that come alongside brain injury are how other people perceive you. And believe me, there are no strategies that make it easy to cope with how other people perceive you. Hey, you look fine. Strategy, there isn't one. Well, you can do that, so you must be fine. Yeah, okay. There are no strategies that can change how other people look at you. There never will be strategies to cope with that. But ultimately, how you cope with the new life is how you put the strategies in, what strategies you use to clear the hurdles that life will throw at you with alarming regularity. How do you self-rehabilitate? How do you get through the bad days? I don't know. You do because you learn to live with them. You learn to power through. It's hard. It seems impossible. Occasionally the hurdles seem insurmountable. But they're not. You can do it. You're not alone. You will get through. Find those strategies. Learn to implement them and learn to cope and be the new you that you can be. That's how I did it. Ta-ta.